Okay, let's just get right into it because today we are tearing down a massive misconception about wealth. I want you to picture two different people. First, we've got Marcus. He makes a solid $155,000 a year as a software engineer. You know the type, right? He's got the cool exposed brick apartment, he leases a BMW, and his LinkedIn profile is an absolute highlight reel. But beneath the surface, he's secretly hiding $4,800 in credit card debt. He hits $900 in his checking account 3 days before payday. Basically, he is living in a state of quiet, constant panic. Now, on the flip side, picture Dana. She earns $72,000 a year as a marketing coordinator. She drives a totally paid-off 2019 Honda Civic. But she has a $167,000 net worth. Zero money stress, she sleeps like a baby every single night. It's a completely jarring contradiction. And honestly, it happens every single day. So the stark reality separating these two is their financial runway. Marcus has just 11 days. Dana has 6 full months. The immediate question you got to ask yourself right now is, which one of these profiles are you currently becoming? Now, before you jump to conclusions and assume Dana lives like a total monk and eats rice and beans in the dark, stop. She doesn't. She travels. She eats out. She genuinely enjoys her life. The real difference is that she follows a very specific set of minimalist psychological rules. And these rules act like an invisible shield. They literally protect her money from the behavioral drains that are quietly bankrupting high earners exactly like Marcus. And look, Marcus is not some rare outlier. 33%, literally 1/3 of households earning over $250,000 a year report living paycheck to paycheck. Just let that sink in for a second. They earn more in a single month than many people do in an entire year, yet they still experience that exact same visceral birthday party math panic. You know the feeling I'm talking about, doing those frantic mental gymnastics at the checkout counter, praying your card doesn't decline. This proves something really profound. Going broke as a high earner is a mindset problem. It is not a math problem. The solution isn't just making more money. The solution is fixing the hidden rules that are governing your behavior. Which brings us perfectly to rule number 1, defining your enough number. See, most people never actually define what enough is. So your brain naturally just defaults to, well, whatever I make right now, plus a little bit more. The goalposts are constantly moving. Every single raise gets immediately absorbed by invisible lifestyle creep. But research actually shows that your emotional well-being plateaus pretty dramatically somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000. Beyond that, you are paying a massive premium for tiny drops of happiness. By defining your anchor, your comfortable living costs, plus a 20% buffer, every dollar you earn above that buys you literal, actual freedom instead of just, a slightly nicer couch. And this exposes the whole illusion of monthly payments. We call this the second price tag. Every single purchase you make has an invisible second price, and that price is what the money would become if you invested it instead. So you might think you're just paying $300 extra a month to upgrade your car lease because, hey, you spend a lot of time commuting, right? It feels totally harmless. But over 25 years, if you invested that at a 7% return, that $300 a month compounds into nearly $250,000. You didn't just buy a car upgrade. You bought a $243,000 anchor that is physically keeping you tied to your desk. Which leads us right into the identity audit. I want you to open your banking app today. Look at your last 15 discretionary purchases. How many of those would you have still bought if absolutely nobody else could ever see them? This gets really uncomfortable really quickly. Social comparison totally hijacks our wallets. 86% of luxury car owners aren't actually millionaires. That BMW flying past you on the highway, statistically, it is a debt signal, not a wealth signal. We spend massive amounts of our hard-earned money to signal status to an audience of people who are way too busy performing their own wealth to even notice ours. It is, without a doubt, the single worst return on investment in existence. Okay, next up is the replacement test. We bleed so much money because we replace things out of sheer boredom, not actual necessity. Americans waste between $30,000 and $50,000 replacing perfectly functioning phones every 2.5 years. Why? Just because the current one kind of feels old. Take a guy named Tyler, for example. Over 10 years, Tyler didn't buy any supercars. He just constantly upgraded perfectly fine laptops, couches, and mid-tier cars. That constant nagging urge to just refresh his life cost him over $700,000 in potential retirement wealth. So before you replace anything, force it to pass this test. Is it actually broken? Does the new one do something fundamentally different? Is it costing you more to keep it? If the answer is no, you literally don't need it. Because if you don't pass that test, you fall into an incredibly dangerous psychological trap called the Diderot effect. It's named after this French philosopher from 1769. He bought this gorgeous, expensive new robe and suddenly felt his entire study looked incredibly cheap by comparison. You buy one premium item, let's say a brand new Apple device or a sleek new TV, suddenly your old couch looks wrong. Then the rug clashes, then your coffee table is just embarrassing. And before you know it, a $1,000 TV has triggered a $4,000 cascade of matching purchases just to elevate everything else to your new standard. That one initial upgrade dragged 11 completely unjustified purchases right behind it. And speaking of invisible money drains, let's talk about your subscriptions. The national average estimated spend is $86, but the actual spend? A staggering $219. Americans underestimate their subscription spending by 155%. The entire subscription economy is literally weaponizing behavioral psychology against you. Their pricing is deliberately designed to fly right under your psychological radar. $12 a month feels like absolutely nothing, but stack them all up and you are accidentally financing the equivalent of a vacation home in $11.99 increments, often for apps you haven't even opened since last year. Now, the standard advice you hear everywhere is to review your subscriptions. That is terrible advice. Why? Because it relies on willpower. Instead, you need what we call the nuclear purge protocol. Cancel absolutely everything today. Every streaming service, every app, every single monthly box. Just burn it down. Then use your own behavioral inertia to your advantage. Only resubscribe to the services that you naturally reach for in the next 7 days. Because of inherent human laziness, you simply won't bother bringing all that junk back. This one brutal reset can easily save you up to $900 a year entirely on autopilot. And this brings us to a really harsh biological truth. Willpower is a deeply, deeply flawed financial strategy. You tell yourself, okay, I'm going to spend less next month. But by 8 p.m., after a grueling, stressful day at work, decision fatigue kicks in hard. That one-click checkout looks incredibly easy. Listen to me. People who build real wealth are not magically more disciplined than you are. They just architect better structural friction. They build an environment where the path of least resistance naturally leads to wealth, instead of leading directly to a shopping cart. So to beat your own brain, you need the automation stack. Behavioral economists proved this when they boosted 401k participation from 49% to 86% simply by making enrollment automatic. You apply this exact same logic by setting up a strict system. First, on payday, your investments transfer instantly. Second, your bills autopay. And third, whatever's actually left over is genuinely yours to spend completely guilt-free. Take it a step further with the anti-lifestyle creep protocol. Automatically route 75% of every future raise you ever get directly to investments before you even see the money. You capture the wealth before your brain ever has a chance to adapt to the new lifestyle. But what about your daily spending, right? Well, between 40 and 80% of all purchases are driven purely by a momentary dopamine spike. The desire is highest in that very first hour. So you introduce a structural delay, the 72-hour firewall. For any non-essential item over $50, you must wait 3 days. Put it in the cart and just step away. Let the retailer's algorithmic urgency completely fade out. Those fake little only 3 left countdown timers, they lose all their power. The reality is, 60% of the things you desperately wanted on Monday, you're going to completely forget about by Thursday. Now, let's talk about tracking your money. Most people try to build this insane 30-tab color-coded budget spreadsheet. They get completely overwhelmed, they feel existential dread over a forgotten $4 coffee receipt, and they completely abandon the whole system in 90 days. Stop doing that. The complex system demands way too much cognitive load. Instead, track exactly one metric: your savings rate. That is just the money you saved and invested divided by your gross income. If you target about 20%, you compress your entire financial future into a single, highly readable dashboard. It's either going up, it's flat, or it's down. Just keep it simple. All right, here is a massive, counterintuitive truth. We all treat money like it's just an abstract number on a screen. It's not. Money is literally time. Financial pioneer Vicki Robin framed this concept back in 1992 as life energy. This represents the finite, completely non-renewable hours of your life that you are permanently trading to an employer in exchange for dollars. When you reframe your spending as literally trading away your remaining days on Earth for disposable plastic items, your entire perspective shifts dramatically. When you actually run the numbers, the math is just brutal. Let's say your real after-tax hourly rate is $25 an hour. That $700 phone isn't just $700. It is 28 hours of your actual life energy. That average car payment, it is stealing 9 entire work weeks from you every single year. Marcus's BMW lease cost him 360 hours of his life annually. This makes the math visceral. The question isn't, can I afford the monthly payment? The real question is this hunk of metal worth surrendering 9 weeks of my actual life? Which brings us to the ultimate question, the final metric. If you lost your job tomorrow with 0 severance and 0 warning, exactly how many days could you survive without changing a single thing about your lifestyle? Not how many weeks, not how many months, how many specific days? This is your freedom horizon. It is the single most honest calculation of your financial health. It strips away your fancy job title and your platinum credit limit to reveal the raw, unvarnished truth of your actual independence. For the median American, that number is a terrifying 14 days. 2 weeks. That is not a financial cushion. That is walking a tightrope without a net. When your freedom horizon is that short, you are completely 100% at the mercy of your employer. Every flat tire, every unexpected medical bill, every minor dip in the road suddenly becomes a full-blown existential crisis. Your high salary means absolutely nothing if the direct deposits stop, and your life instantly collapses. And this leads to a really crucial realization. Financial peace is built, it's not bought. Behavioral finance studies reveal a staggering fact. Having just a liquid $2,000 emergency fund scientifically produces a more massive increase in psychological well-being than having a $500,000 income. It pushes your freedom horizon just far enough out that a broken water heater becomes a temporary annoyance instead of a life-altering catastrophe. It creates this incredible, silent gap between a problem occurring and the panic actually setting in. So let's look back at our 2 profiles from the beginning. This is exactly why Marcus is drowning on $155,000 a year, suffering from just 11 days of runway and constant quiet panic. He never automated his architecture, and he traded all his precious life energy to perform wealth for total strangers. Dana, on the other hand, earning less than half his salary, enjoys 6 months of profound financial silence. She built the firewall. She defined her enough number. She bought her own freedom instead of buying things. So I'll leave you with this thought. Doing the math is the only way to architect genuine freedom. Which of these minimalist psychological rules hit the hardest for you today? Are you spending your precious life energy building a life that just looks rich on the outside? Or are you building one that is actually free on the inside? Subscribe for more explainers like this, click the link below, and leave a comment telling me exactly which rule you are going to implement today. Because knowing the rules is one thing, right? But building the architecture, that's everything.